Breaking now. Hip-hop's most protected king may not be the last man standing. He may be the last man hiding. While Diddy's world burned in public, Jay-Z's stayed silent. No defense, no denial, just cold calculation. And that silence, it wasn't fear, it was survival. For decades, Jay-Z and Diddy were sold to us as untouchable brothers, two titans, one empire, blood loyalty. But when the storm hit Diddy, that brotherhood allegedly collapsed into something darker, survival mode. Because in this game, loyalty doesn't win, control does. And according to insiders who are finally speaking up, Jay didn't just distance himself from the chaos. He may have orchestrated his exit long before the walls came down. This isn't about friendship anymore. This is about who knew what and when they knew it, and why one man fell publicly while another walked away clean. 50 Cent started hinting, Jaguar Wright started screaming, and suddenly attorneys started quietly confirming they had seen materials. Not rumors, not gossip, recordings, documents, things that made people in boardrooms go silent. And the question exploded across Hollywood. If 50 Cent had a full Netflix documentary ready to drop, who gave him the keys? Think about it. 50 doesn't operate on conspiracy. He operates on paperwork. He's been circling this story for years, dropping breadcrumbs, making jokes that didn't feel like jokes. And then Diddy's situation blew wide open, and 50 had a whole documentary ready to go. That's not luck, that's preparation. That's someone who had access to something real. Online detectives went into overdrive. They started pulling up old interviews, matching timelines, comparing who said what and when. Fans turned into full-blown investigators, going frame by frame through decades of footage, looking for patterns. And the patterns? They were everywhere. Jaguar Wright had been saying it for months. She claimed there were tapes, she claimed powerful people knew, she claimed the industry protected certain names while sacrificing others. And for a long time, people wrote her off, called her bitter, called her crazy. But then, attorneys started saying they'd seen materials that matched her descriptions. Suddenly, her lies started aging into receipts. TMZ dropped clips, social media exploded, and the one name that kept coming up in whispers, in private group chats, in industry circles, was Jay-Z. Not because he was on tape, but because he wasn't saying anything. And in a world where silence is usually bought, his silence felt expensive. Fans online started connecting dots that didn't seem related before. Old business deals, shared attorneys, overlapping timelines between Roc Nation events and Diddy's private parties. Nothing concrete, but enough smoke to make people wonder if there was a fire nobody wanted to talk about. And here's where it gets even crazier. People started noticing that every time Diddy's name hit the headlines, Jay-Z's team went quieter. No solidarity posts, no public support, no "that's my brother" energy. Just distance. Calculated, cold distance. The kind that makes you wonder if it was strategy, not shock. 50 Cent didn't just have footage, he had dates, he had sources willing to go on record. And the deeper people dug, the more it looked like 50 wasn't working alone. Someone with serious access, serious knowledge, and serious motivation was feeding him everything he needed to build a case. And the question everyone started asking was simple. What does Jay-Z know that we don't? Because here's the thing, in this industry, information is currency, and the people who survive the longest are the ones who know when to spend it. Diddy was becoming the acceptable monster, the sacrificial name, the villain the public was ready to crucify. Just like R. Kelly before him, just like Harvey Weinstein, just like every other powerful figure who got too loud, too messy, too visible. And when the sacrifice ritual begins in Hollywood, someone always walks away clean. Jaguar said it plainly, they rise together, and when it falls apart, they fall together. But this time, only one man was falling publicly, and the other, he was nowhere to be found. Fans online started asking, where's Jay? Where's Beyonce? Where's the Roc Nation statement? Where's the loyalty? And the silence got louder. Because in Hollywood, when powerful people go quiet, it's not because they don't have anything to say, it's because they've already said it behind closed doors. Reports surfaced that Jay-Z's personal attorney had been seen around Diddy's legal proceedings, not representing him, just present, observing. And that raised eyebrows, because why would Jay's lawyer be anywhere near Diddy's case unless there was overlap, unless there was something that connected them beyond friendship, something legal, something serious? And just like that, the internet turned into a courtroom. People weren't just speculating anymore. They were building timelines. They were cross-referencing interviews from 2005, 2012, 2018. They were pulling up old radio shows where Diddy hinted at things, where Jay stayed silent, where 50 Cent laughed in a way that felt like he knew something nobody else did. The evidence wasn't a smoking gun. It was a trail of smoke, but the trail led somewhere, and the more people followed it, the more it pointed in one direction, toward a man who built an empire on staying 10 steps ahead, a man who never lost, a man who allegedly made sure he never would. This wasn't just about Diddy anymore. This was about power, about who controls the narrative, about who decides which names burn and which names walk. And if the whispers are true, Jay-Z didn't just walk, he ran, and he made sure nobody could follow him. Now let's get into the motive, because this is where everything starts clicking. According to industry whispers, Jay-Z allegedly understood something before everyone else. Diddy was becoming the acceptable monster, the sacrificial name, the villain the public was ready to crucify. Just like R. Kelly before him, just like Harvey Weinstein, just like every other powerful figure who got too loud, too messy, too visible. And when the sacrifice ritual begins in Hollywood, someone always walks away clean. Here's the thing about Jay-Z. He didn't build an empire by being loyal. He built it by being smart. Ruthless, even. He's the guy who watched Biggie and Tupac destroy each other and took notes. He's the guy who saw Nas as competition and buried him in the court of public opinion before making peace years later on his terms. He's a strategist, and strategists don't go down with sinking ships. Let's go back. Jay-Z and Diddy came up in the same era. Different lanes, but same game. Both built empires in the 90s. Both transitioned from music to business. Both married icons. Both became billionaires. On paper, they were brothers. In reality, they were competitors wearing friendship as a mask. Because here's what people forget. In the music industry, there's only room for one king at a time. And for years, Diddy held that crown. Bad Boy was the blueprint. Puff was the mogul. But then Rock Nation happened. Then Tidal. Then Beyoncé. And suddenly, Jay wasn't just in the room. He was running it. Diddy's brand started slipping. The parties got messier, the allegations got louder, the lawsuits piled up. And while Diddy was fighting fires, Jay was building fire walls. He cleaned up his image. He got political. He had dinners with presidents. He became the respectable billionaire, the one corporations could do business with. And that's the difference. Diddy stayed in the chaos. Jay-Z got out of it. And when you're trying to protect a billion-dollar brand, you don't associate with chaos. You cut it off, even if it used to be your friend. Insiders claim Jay didn't wait for the building to burn. He saw the smoke years ago. He allegedly started distancing himself quietly, strategically, in ways the public wouldn't notice. Fewer appearances together, fewer collaborations, fewer public endorsements. And when the allegations against Diddy started gaining traction, Jay-Z was already gone. But it gets deeper. People started connecting old stories. Remember when Kanye said Diddy was the feds? People laughed, thought he was spiraling. But what if he wasn't wrong? What if Kanye, in his chaos, stumbled onto something real? What if Diddy had been working with authorities for years and Jay knew it? Or flip it. What if Jay was the one who carried information to the authorities? What if, in an effort to protect himself, his family, his empire, he made a deal? He gave them someone bigger, someone messier, someone the public was ready to hate, and in exchange, his name stayed clean. That's the conspiracy that's rocking the industry right now. Not that Jay-Z is innocent, but that he's untouchable because he made himself valuable to the people who decide who falls and who doesn't. Jaguar Wright said it outright. Jay-Z isn't the last man standing, he's one of them, meaning he's not a victim of the system, he's part of it. He's protected because he plays the game better than anyone else, and when the game requires a sacrifice, he knows how to make sure it's not him. Let's talk about the money, because motive isn't just about survival, it's about empire preservation. Jay-Z is worth over $1 billion. Beyoncé is worth $500 million. Together, they're a dynasty. And dynasties don't fall because of loyalty, they fall because of association. If Diddy goes down and takes everyone with him, that includes Jay. Unless Jay cut the cord first. Unless he made it clear, legally, publicly, financially, that he had nothing to do with whatever Diddy was involved in. And the only way to do that, distance, silence, and allegedly cooperation. People don't want to believe it because Jay-Z is hip-hop royalty. He's the guy who went from Marcy Projects to sitting courtside with billionaires. He's the blueprint. But blueprints can be rewritten. And if the allegations are true, Jay rewrote his own story by erasing Diddy from it. This isn't about friendship, this is about legacy, and Jay-Z's legacy is too valuable to risk on someone else's mistakes. So if Diddy had to burn to keep that legacy intact, insiders believe Jay let it happen, or worse, helped it happen. That's the motive. That's the backstory. That's the cold calculation that turned two kings into one survivor and one sacrifice. And the scariest part? It worked. Because while Diddy's facing lawsuits, investigations, and public humiliation, Jay-Z is still on top, still untouchable, still silent. And that silence, it's not weakness, it's power. The kind of power that only comes from knowing exactly when to speak and when to let someone else take the fall. But here's the part that really hits different. This isn't just about two billionaires playing chess with each other's lives. This is about the people caught in the middle, the ones who had no power, no platform, no protection. Jaguar Wright isn't a billionaire. She's a singer, a mother, someone who spent years in the industry watching things happen she couldn't stop. And when she finally spoke up, she was dragged, mocked, called bitter, labeled crazy. Her career was destroyed. Her name was trashed. And why? Because she told the truth before people were ready to hear it. Fans watched her interviews and laughed. Industry people dismissed her as a scorned artist looking for attention. But Jaguar kept talking, kept naming names, kept saying the same thing over and over. They protect each other, and when one falls, the rest scatter. And now attorneys are saying they've seen the tapes she talked about. Now the stories she told years ago are matching the headlines. Now her lies are starting to sound like prophecy. But where's her apology? Where's her vindication? She's still out here fighting alone, while the people she exposed are still living in mansions. That's the emotional weight of this, because it's not just about power, it's about who gets to be believed, who gets to be protected, and who gets thrown away. Diddy's accusations, many of them came forward years ago, and they were silenced, paid off, threatened, discredited, and the industry kept spinning, the parties kept happening, the money kept flowing, because powerful men don't fall unless the system decides it's time. And when that time comes, it's not justice, it's strategy, it's sacrifice, it's one monster being fed to the public so the others can keep operating in the shadows. Fans are heartbroken because they believed in the brotherhood, they believed in the culture, they believed that hip-hop was different, that the kings looked out for each other. But this situation is showing the truth. Loyalty only exists when it's profitable.
Jay-Z and Beyoncé lost followers. Not millions, but enough to notice. Enough to show that people are waking up, that they're questioning the silence, that they're asking, if you really didn't know, why aren't you saying that? And if you did know, why didn't you stop it? The emotional layer here isn't about villains and heroes, it's about complicity. It's about who knew and said nothing, who saw and walked away, who protected their brand while others suffered. And that's what's breaking people's hearts right now, because it's not just Diddy, it's the entire system that allowed him to operate for decades, while people like Jaguar screamed into the void. This is somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, somebody's mother, and they were ignored because the men they accused were too powerful to touch, until they weren't, until the system decided it was time. And when that time came, it's not justice, it's strategy. It's sacrifice. It's one monster being fed to the public so the others can keep operating in the shadows. Then the legal pieces started lining up, and that's when this went from internet theory to something people couldn't ignore anymore. Jay-Z's personal attorney reportedly appearing around Diddy's case, not representing Diddy, just there, observing, present in spaces where legal strategies were being discussed. And people started asking, why? If Jay-Z has nothing to do with this, why is his lawyer anywhere near it? Names started repeating, stories started overlapping. Old rumors that were dismissed years ago suddenly sounded like future headlines. And the more people dug, the more connections they found. Jaguar Wright claimed tapes existed. Months later, attorneys quietly admitted, yes, they had seen them. And just like that, her credibility wiped from zero to something people couldn't dismiss anymore. Because when attorneys start confirming what the crazy lady said, maybe she wasn't so crazy after all.
Let's break down the timeline, because timing is everything in this story. 2023. Diddy's allegations start gaining public traction. Cassie files her lawsuit. The dominoes start falling. And Jay-Z? Complete radio silence. No statement, no support, no innocent until proven guilty energy, just distance. 2024. More accusers come forward. Federal investigations reportedly begin. 50 Cent announces his Netflix documentary. And still, Jay-Z says nothing. Beyoncé says nothing. Roc Nation issues no statement. It's like Diddy doesn't exist in their world anymore. But here's where it gets interesting. While Jay stayed silent publicly, people close to the situation started noticing his legal team was active. Very active. Not on social media, not in press releases, but in courtrooms, in depositions, in places where strategies get built and deals get made. And that raised a massive red flag. Because if you're truly uninvolved, you don't need legal strategy. You just say, I had nothing to do with this, and move on. But if you're strategizing, that means there's something to strategize about. Online investigators pulled up old interviews where Diddy hinted at things, where he mentioned brothers who were with him at certain events, where he talked about loyalty and betrayal in ways that felt like he was sending messages. And people started matching those interviews to timelines, to parties, to business deals. And Jay-Z's name kept coming up. Not explicitly, never explicitly, but in the way people talk when they're trying to say something without saying it. The kind of coded language that people in power use when they know they're being recorded. Reports surfaced that certain individuals had carried materials to authorities years ago, not recently, years ago. And those materials allegedly included recordings, documents, and testimony about parties, events, and situations that involved multiple high-profile names, not just Diddy, multiple names. And if that's true, then this has been brewing for a long time. This wasn't a sudden implosion, this was a controlled demolition. And controlled demolitions require planning, coordination, and someone making the decision about what gets destroyed and what stays standing. DJ Vlad allegedly denied Jaguar Wright's claims. Emails later surfaced suggesting he knew more than he admitted. Suddenly, his dismissal of her looked less like skepticism and more like protection. Protection of who?
That's the question people are asking now. Kanye once said Diddy was the feds. People laughed it off as another Kanye rant. But what if he meant it literally? What if Diddy had been cooperating with authorities for years, feeding them information about others to protect himself? And what if Jay knew that? What if that's why he distanced himself? Or flipped the script. What if Jay was the one cooperating? What if, in an effort to protect his empire, he gave authorities what they needed to take down someone else? Someone whose mess was becoming a liability. Someone who was getting too loud, too reckless, too visible. Either way, the pattern is the same. Information was shared, deals were made, and one man walked away clean while another man's life became a public trial. People started pulling up old stories about Tupac and Biggie, about Death Row East, about secret meetings, hotel rooms, alliances that shifted overnight, about betrayals that were whispered about for years, but never proven. And all of those stories kept circling back to the same core group of people, the same names, the same power players. And here's what makes this so chilling. Because if even half of these allegations are true, then this isn't new. This is how the game has always been played. The only difference now, people are paying attention. Now the whispers are becoming headlines. Now the code is being cracked. Attorneys saying they've seen tapes, Jaguar Wright's allegations gaining credibility, 50 Cent's documentary ready to drop, federal investigations reportedly active, and through it all, Jay-Z stays silent. Because silence in this game isn't weakness, it's strategy, it's power. It's the move you make when you've already won. But the internet is not letting it go. People are demanding answers. They're demanding accountability. They're demanding to know, if you knew, why didn't you say something? And if you didn't know, why are you acting like you did? Because that's the paradox. Jay-Z's silence feels too calculated to be ignorance. It feels too strategic to be shock. It feels like the silence of someone who knew exactly what was coming and made sure he wasn't in the blast radius when it hit. And that's what's terrifying people right now. Not that he's guilty, but that he's untouchable. That he played the game so well, he made himself immune to the consequences. That while others burn, he stays golden. Not because he's innocent, but because he's smart. Now let's talk about the side stories that make this even more complicated. Because this isn't happening in a vacuum. There's a whole web of connections, allegations, and histories that feed into this narrative. Let's start with 50 Cent, because 50 isn't just trolling for fun. He's been circling this story for years, dropping hints, making jokes that felt too specific to be random, and now he's got a full documentary ready. That level of preparation doesn't happen overnight. That's someone who's been collecting receipts, building a case, and waiting for the right moment to drop it all. And the question people keep asking is, where did 50 get his information? Because he's not an investigative journalist, he's a rapper turned businessman. So either he witnessed things firsthand, or someone with serious access fed him everything he needed to topple Diddy. And if that's the latter, then who was it? Who had the motive, the access, and the willingness to take down Diddy? Some people think it was Jay-Z, that he used 50 as a proxy to do the dirty work while keeping his own hands clean. Others think 50 is working independently, capitalizing on the chaos for views and profit. Either way, the timing is suspicious, the level of detail is suspicious, and the fact that 50 has been so confident, so public, so unbothered by potential lawsuits, that suggests he's got something real. Then there's Kanye, always Kanye, the man who said Diddy was the feds during one of his infamous rants. People wrote it off as another breakdown. But Kanye has a pattern of saying things that sound insane in the moment and then turn out to be true years later. He said the industry was controlling him. People laughed, then his contracts leaked and proved he was right. He said powerful people were trying to silence him. People rolled their eyes, then he got dropped by every major brand in a coordinated effort. So when Kanye said Diddy was the feds, maybe he wasn't spiraling. Maybe he knew something. Maybe he'd seen something. Maybe that's why he's been so paranoid, so vocal, so desperate to get out of the system before it swallowed him whole. And then there's the Tupac and Biggie connection, because that story has never been fully resolved, and people are starting to wonder if the same power players involved in this Diddy situation were also involved back then, if the same strategies, the same cover-ups, the same sacrifices were happening even in the 90s. Death Row East was supposed to be Diddy's answer to Suge Knight's Death Row Records. It never launched. But people whisper that the plans were real, that meetings happened, that alliances were forming. And then Biggie died, and everything collapsed, and certain people walked away from that tragedy richer, more powerful, more untouchable. Coincidence? Maybe, but when you start connecting the dots, when you look at who benefited, who stayed silent, who rose to power in the aftermath, the coincidences start looking like patterns. There are also stories about hotel rooms, private parties, secret meetings where deals were made and threats were issued. Stories that have floated around the industry for decades, but never confirmed. Until now. Until attorneys started saying they've seen materials that corroborated those old rumors. Until Jaguar Wright started naming names, and people realized she'd been telling the truth all along. And here's the thing about secrets in Hollywood. They don't stay buried forever. They stay buried as long as they're useful, as long as keeping them hidden benefits the right people. But when the cost of keeping them hidden outweighs the benefit, that's when they surface. That's when sacrifices are made. That's when someone gets thrown to the wolves so everyone else can keep operating in the shadows. Diddy is that sacrifice right now, the acceptable monster, the one the public can hate without questioning the system that created him. But if people keep digging, if they keep connecting dots, if they keep asking questions, eventually they're going to realize Diddy wasn't operating alone. He wasn't the only one. He was just the one they decided to take down. And that's what's making this story so much bigger than just Jay-Z and Diddy. Because it's about an entire industry built on power, silence, and strategic sacrifice. It's about who gets to be protected and who gets fed to the public when accountability finally comes knocking.
Now the silence makes sense. Now the patterns connect. Now the past doesn't sound like rumor anymore. It sounds like history catching up. So here's the real question. Was Jay-Z the last man standing or the last man to run? Because if he ran, if he knew what was coming and chose himself over loyalty, then this isn't a story about survival. It's a story about betrayal, about power, about a man who built an empire on strategy and sacrifice. And maybe, just maybe, the sacrifice was never his to make. People are divided right now. Some think Jay is a genius who saw the trap and avoided it. Others think he's a coward who let his friend burn to save himself. And some think he's something worse, the architect, the one who set the trap in the first place. We don't know the truth yet. Maybe we never will. But what we do know is this. The story is far from over. More details are dropping, more clues are surfacing, more people are talking. And the deeper this goes, the harder it becomes to ignore. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Jay-Z knew what was happening? Do you think he helped take Diddy down, or did he just distance himself in time? And do you believe Jaguar Wright was telling the truth all along? Make sure you like the video if this opened your eyes. Hit subscribe because we're covering every single twist that comes out of this story. And turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update. Because trust me, this is about to get even crazier. I appreciate you for rocking with me. Thank you for watching, thank you for thinking critically, and thank you for not just accepting the narrative you've given. Stay safe out there, stay informed, and remember, the truth doesn't need protection, it only needs time. And time is officially running out. The walls are closing, the silence is breaking, and the empire, it's starting to crack. Because in the end, everyone falls. The only question is when, and who goes down with them.